Thank the gentleman. And the gentleman from Minnesota is recognized for 5 minutes. Mr. Walz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Porcari, for being here. I represent a small city of about 110,000 people in southern Minnesota. It also happens to be the world's premier medical destination, Rochester, Minnesota, and the Mayo Clinic. They have 2.75 million visitors a year, generating $10 billion of economic activity. They employ 40,000 people, which is more than Chrysler's entire workforce in the United States. They are fed by 2 highways that are at one point within 20 miles of the city, 2 lanes. They're on there. That's the situation. There has been a concerted effort of local, state, private partners to build intercity rail to obviously the destination of the Twin Cities and the airport where the bulk of those 2.75 million people fly into. My question as we go forward on this, and I'm one, I often hear, it appears like when we talk about these things that some of my colleagues believe our best days are behind us. We have economic engines that are outpacing anything in the world. We have innovation that's out-innovating anybody else in the world. What's holding us back is an outdated, outmoded transportation system that is going to take creative thinking. My question to you is, and I hear it is, how does a city of 110,000 compete with a Miami, a Los Angeles, a Denver, the Eastern Corridor here? How do we make those investments there where I can guarantee you return on the dollar is going to be higher than any place else you get? How do the programs, and I'm glad to see the budget sets aside money, but how do regional planning authorities compete with the metropolitan planning authorities? And how are you envisioning that to make sure that multimodal intercity rail transport is available to the people in southern Minnesota?
Excellent question, Mr. Walz. First of all, the clinic is a great example of an anchor institution that is a major employment node that our transportation system, whether you're talking about highway or rail or aviation for that matter, really hasn't kept up with. And transportation is economic development. At the end of the day, this country was built on tough investment decisions in transportation infrastructure that our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents made. And I think what you're pointing out is as new employment nodes emerge, we have an obligation to serve them as well. I am familiar with the discussion about passenger rail service to the facility. It's a great example of what may be an emerging node that would later be part of a larger regional and national connection. And I mentioned city pairs is one way that it works. Major employment nodes is another. We don't see this as a zero-sum game in the sense that with adequate baseline funding, there are emerging rail markets all over America that really can be served and can be served very well. And for families, for patients, for others that want transportation choices and don't want to have to drive, it would give them those choices. So we see that as a great example of how an intercity passenger rail program that operates on various levels, regional, local, and true high speed.
How do we get away from the chicken and the egg scenario that our local private partners are waiting for the commitment and the investment, and then we keep hearing we need to see that local commitment going or whatever? How do we get started and break this logjam? Because this is, the chamber's all in. Labor's all in. I mean, people are all in on this thing, but we're caught in this dilemma that, well, how do we know the federal government's going to be there to do it? This is the case, if you can take your ideology and throw it out the window on this one, this is going to be a public-private partnership. Without the federal government and the state government, it won't happen. Without the private sector, it won't happen. How do we get there? What's the catalyst?
Well, we'll be happy to be the convening group for that, but as you point out, that is a very likely candidate for a public-private partnership where there are private investment opportunities, private redevelopment, value capture opportunities. It will take some substantial level of public investment, most likely at both the state and federal level, to make that happen. So if you think about 3 parties, private sector, state, and federal, it will likely take all 3 of those parties for that service.
Well, I look forward to working with you on this. I think it's an incredible opportunity to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. Mr. Hanna is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman.